Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Weekly Business Hour, and I am Rick Schissler, your Silver Fox advisor and host for the show. Glad you had time to join us. We're in the holiday season now, and I know that everybody's busy, not only in their businesses, but personally. You know, speaking of businesses and being busy in the holidays, there are some businesses apparently that are not very busy. I was in a network breakfast this morning, and we were talking about how business was, and one of the attendees mentioned that this is basically his worst time of the year because everybody's so busy doing everything else. Everybody's busy buying Christmas presents, is the way he said it, that they don't take time to service their fleet. So it's very interesting. This is the winners and losers. That's the way it always is in business. And I hope that if you're listening, you are one of those winners. We're going to start today's show with our thought for the week, your business's front door. Then we'll check in with Dick on the business here at Lone Star Community Radio. And then we'll have a very special guest with us, author Kathryn Lane. And then in the second half of the show, we're going to have Angela Storthus Cooper. It's going to join us from the Woodlands Chamber to talk about an upcoming event they have. And we'll also have our Silver Fox tip of the week. Let me remind you as we get started today that if you'd like to contact me, if you've got a comment about the show or you have a question or you have a general business question, because as a Silver Fox advisor, that's what I do. I work with people, I mentor them, I advise them on how to build a better business. So I'd be glad to take your questions in that area as well. So just reach out, email me at Rick, R-I-C-K, at irlonestar.com. Thought for the week, your business's front door. Start with a quote from one of my favorite people. That's Mark Twain. The secret of getting ahead is getting started. The secret of getting started is breaking your complex, overwhelming task into smaller, manageable tasks, and then starting on the first one. Well, that obviously makes sense, but many times we don't do that in business. And one of the tasks, and I say task, it's one of the things we need to consider, I believe, in business is what's our front door do for our business? I mean, your front door is really more important than you perhaps give it credit. Have you ever taken a good look at your front door and see what it says about your business? And stop for a moment and think about it. When you're in business and people come to your location to do business, whether you're in a retail business or you have a manufacturing facility or an office warehouse where you distribute products, people come to your front door. It could be vendors. It could be lenders. If you borrowed money, it can be customers. And when they reach for that doorknob to pull open your door, there's a lot to be said about your front door and what it says about your business. I mean, stop for a minute. Have you ever gone to do business with someone, perhaps personally, and you go to open the door and it's real hard to get open? Or you look at the door and you're not quite sure who's on the other side. Is this really the business I want to be at? They haven't clearly identified their business. So take a look at your front door. See if you can improve what it says to the folks that do business with you. And I need to note, if you're an online business and you really don't have a front door like someone in a retail business or in an office, then look at your home page, obviously. A lot of effort is spent by most online businesses to make their front page look and feel right for all their visitors. Because you realize on the online business, we only have a few seconds to get the people to do business with us, or they move on quickly. And I will say the same thing, maybe in a little longer time period, is true of a conventional front door. So let's all take a look at our front doors. Make sure they're attractive and inviting. They catch your eye. And one piece of advice I will give you that I experienced when I owned my own businesses, both retail and both that operated out of a business and a warehouse, manufacturing, is I put some glass in my door because I thought that was something that would be inviting, even in the manufacturing facility where we had a front door where people occasionally came, prospective employees. I wanted it to look inviting. I wanted it to look attractive. New directions and opportunities. They're there for us every day. And I hope that this discussion about your front door might motivate you to make your business a better place to do business. The Weekly Business Hour is where Montgomery County and businesses throughout the world come to talk about the latest in business news, ideas to improve your business, and to hear from some of our local business leaders and how they found success right here in Montgomery County. I'll give you a reminder right now that, remember, the Weekly Business Hour has a Facebook page, so please like it. One advantage to you is that each week as we post the previous week's shows, you can get an alert to let you know that there's new content on the Weekly Business Hour page. So go to Facebook and please like us. Well, now we're going to check in with Dick here at the Lone Star Community Radio to see what's going on in their business.
Well, Rick, just to let your audience know that here at Lone Star Community Radio is... Oh, there we go. My microphone wasn't on. One thing I want to let your audience know is that we will be installing our TV cameras this week, so you will be able to watch the Weekly Business Hour. So make sure to subscribe to all of our shows that you're interested in on YouTube, because that's where we'll be posting it. Also, if you live in the Conroe area and you have Suddenlink as a TV provider, then just check out Channel 12 with Our City TV, which we'll be running all of our talk shows on who are participating. And I will let you know, I can't emphasize enough about that front door, because unfortunately and fortunately, we're located right next to a coffee shop. And to let your audience know, we don't serve coffee here, we do radio. So our front door really does get confused with people, and it's a constant struggle here at Lone Star just to let people know, hey, go next door. The door next door is for the coffee shop. So it's kind of funny that you bring that statement up about how important your front door is to your business.
Well, Dick, maybe you need to take a good look at that door and see how you can correct that message that you're not in the coffee business. But anyway, that's for another day. Now the part of the show that I enjoy the very most, and you know that if you've been listening for any period of time over the last several years, and that's where we have our in-studio guest, someone from right here in Montgomery County who's been successful. In this case, I welcome author Kathryn Lane. Kathryn, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Rick. It's a pleasure.
Well, I told you prior to the show that I was kind of excited to interview an author. I've had others who've written books, but that's really your business, isn't it? You're an author.
It is.
Well, you know, one of the things I found that was very interesting in looking at your background and studying it, you have such a varied background in business. Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, let me start out by saying that I was a starving artist at age 26 because I didn't know how to market myself. Now I would know how to be an artist and I would know how to market my paintings, but back then I didn't. So I had to earn a living for myself. I was divorced. I had a 3-year-old son, and I decided to go into an MBA program. And I sat for the CPA exam, and I passed that, and I worked in public accounting for 3.5 years. And then I joined a multinational corporation, and that was the best decision that I had made in my entire life as far as business was concerned. And then when I left them, 20 years later, that was the best decision I made for my writing career that I've embarked upon since I left them. It was a wonderful experience. I had the opportunity to travel to 92 countries and to learn how all those different countries did business. And the people, obviously, when you're in finance, as I was, you have to abide by the accounting rules in the United States. And applying those accounting rules in all these different countries could be very challenging at times, especially with foreign exchange risk and all of those concepts, which we won't get into because they're too technical. But that was one of also the fascinating aspects of being able to balance all that risk.
You know, I have to kind of step aside and ask you a question. The current news today is who's going to be Secretary of State. And coming to the studio today, I understand that Rex Tillerson, who's the CEO of Exxon, is a candidate. He's only been to 80 countries. Are you somehow in the running because you've been to 92 countries?
Well, I would turn it down if I were. Like Giuliani, I'd just step aside and say, fill it without me.
Well, obviously, though, those travels have filled you with all kinds of ideas and perspectives that the average person, including me, wouldn't have. So let me ask you, the business of being an author, tell us about it. What does it entail?
It's the most challenging business I've ever been in. And yet I encourage anyone who wants to try it to do it, because especially for people that have reached an age, let's say over 50, that have the opportunity to live their dream, they can do it, because everyone has life experiences that are phenomenal that we should share with others. And there's so many ways to publish these days. I do have a publisher, but you can self-publish. To be in the business, obviously, you have to have a deep yearning for it. And if you're going to write fiction, you have to have a good imagination. And there are other qualities that you have to have, too. But being in the business and starting from scratch, as I have, not only is it very challenging, it's also very exciting. And I can go into more detail as you wish.
Well, let me ask you, what particular attracted you to do this at this point in your life? You said that was a great decision to leave the multinational business. What really attracted you to be? You've been an artist, a painter. attracted you, though, to be an author?
I wanted to get back into the arts, and I did not want to paint anymore because I'd lost the craft, obviously. But I'd been to so many countries. I'd had so many experiences. I just knew that that was the avenue that I had to follow. And I started writing short stories, poetry, and I also took some creative writing classes because all I'd written before that were strategic plans, and you can't get very creative with them.
They are pretty bland and straightforward, aren't they? Full of numbers, though, right?
Yes.
Only numbers that a CPA could love, right?
That's right.
Well, let me ask you this. I mean, obviously, your international travels led into your first book, full novel, Waking Up in Medellin. Tell us about that. Colombia, when I think about Colombia and I see Medellin, I think about drug cartels. I mean, here in this country, that's all we ever hear, but it's a beautiful city.
Medellin is today a very quiet city. It's a very cultural city. It's a lovely city to visit. I placed this story in Medellin because it was a contrast to what it had been in the 80s and 90s when Pablo Escobar was alive, and that's the Medellin that a lot of people still think about. And although this novel is a thriller, and there is a small drug connection in the novel, it certainly also portrays what a beautiful city Medellin is and what a beautiful country Colombia is, because it's not the only city. There's also Cartagena that features pretty heavily in the novel. But when I was thinking of writing a novel, this personage, this character, named Nikki, just started talking to me. And that happens to authors. It's not weird. It just happens to authors. And for some reason, she just seemed to be, she needed to be placed in Medellin, Colombia. Although she was from Minneapolis, Minnesota, of an Hispanic, obviously, background. Nikki Garcia is her name. So it just evolved, and I had the whole novel in my head. And then I started writing. And because I guess I'm a CPA, I write rather sequentially.
Well, that gives you a little bit of discipline, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Oh, discipline's important for writers.
Well, and that's something I think a lot of folks miss. And when I've read writers' stories, is that they write at certain times during the day. Many of them is a very disciplined, how many hours. And at least that's one of the things I take away, that it is, people miss that. You think an author, particularly fiction writer, lives in another world. But it takes a lot of discipline, doesn't it?
That is key. In fact, Gabriel Garcia Marquez, obviously he was a Colombian author. He died a couple of years ago. He said the hardest part about being an author is that discipline to get it done. And I would agree with that.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we've come to one of our breaks. Please stay with us. We're going to come back and talk with Kathryn a little bit more about why she chose Colombia, or what that feeling was that gave her to cite her first novel in Colombia, and some other aspects of being an author. So please stay with us. We'll see you in just a moment.
Doing business since 1985, Assistance League of Montgomery County is a nonprofit, all-volunteer organization where all proceeds stay in Montgomery County. We are proud to sponsor 10 philanthropic programs that enhance the lives of those in our community. Visit our thrift shop at 126 North San Jacinto Street in downtown Conroe, or call us at 936-760-1151. Don't forget to like us on Facebook.
Have you set a goal to get a new job or get promoted? Have you ever been frustrated with resumes or job interviews? If you want to ace a job search and make more money, or just love what you do for a living, tune into Your Career with Todd Bermont, Fridays at 2 o'clock. Each week, noted author and creator of the Careers College, Todd Bermont, shares tips, news, interviews, and secrets you can use to further your career. Tune in Fridays at 2 o'clock p.m. on Conroe's FM 104.5, 106.1, and IRLoneStar.com.
Have a legal question? Are you a resident of Montgomery County? Call 281-645-6344 to talk to a volunteer attorney from the Woodlands Bar Association. We answer the phones on the first Monday of every month at 281-645-6344 from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. to provide general legal information and information about legal resources to Montgomery County residents.
This is Rick Schissler, your Silver Fox advisor and host of the Weekly Business Hour. And we're in the studio today talking with Kathryn Lane, an author who's written a wonderful book, Waking Up in Medellin. We're talking about the business of being an author and how you select where you write your books, in this case, fiction. And, you know, Kathryn, that's one of the things, and you mentioned these, Nikki, your main character, just comes into your head, location, but there's got to be something. I mean, why this book?
Part of it was that I saw a lot of things in my work with the multinational corporation I was with, and I did personally have a lot of training in fraud audits, and I did perform some fraud audits at the beginning of my career. And it's very interesting work because it is very similar to being an investigator, a private investigator. And I just thought that that was a good place for me to start with my very first novel. Start with something I really knew well. It is pure fiction. Everything about it is pure fiction. But the starting point was it was a world I knew.
Well, and that's, you know, obviously you had experience and background. So many times I read that writers, fiction, nonfiction, particularly nonfiction, but fiction, they have to do a lot of research to write their books. But you're writing based on a lot of experiences. Is that a fair statement?
That is correct, but I did a lot of research too because I wanted to make sure that everything was correct. And even though I knew the city of Medellin very well, I knew Colombia very well and Cartagena very well, all of them feature in the novel, but I also knew the business background. I knew the international business aspects that are mentioned. And then, of course, I added a little bit of romance, and it is a thriller. It is a mystery. And that was, of course, all of the imaginative part. But it is set in a real setting, which I think is important because that way you ground the story in something that people can put their arms around. And that's where so many people have these wonderful experiences that they can start writing about. And you mentioned that I'm the first author, but I hope that anybody out there listening to us decides to start writing because just like Mark Twain said, get started. Well, if you want to be a writer, you just start writing.
Well, you and I discussed before the show, and I am a believer in this and hope to one day follow in your footsteps, so to speak. But I believe all of us have a great story, business story. In our case, we're talking about business today, that could be written down in a book or some form similar to that. That would be engaging on the fiction side in some cases or nonfiction, either way. But I think you're right. I think all of us in our lifetime, assuming we get a full life, should write a book. We should write something that we can leave behind. But in your case now, it's a profession. I mean, it's a business.
It is.
And do you have another book coming?
I do. I have 2 books coming out in 2017. The sequel to Waking Up in Medellin, which the working title is Coyote Zone, and it takes place in Mexico. And then the third sequel will be out in 2018, late 2018, and that will be in Barcelona, Spain. Same protagonist because that's called for in my contract with the publisher. But I also am very excited that I have my short stories and a longer short story, which is called a novella, coming out in an anthology with Alamo Bay Press at the end of January. It'll be available on Amazon by February 1st.
And what was that story?
That story, the anchor story is Backyard Volcano.
Okay.
And it does also take place in Mexico. Well, it's sort of a cross-border. It takes place in Texas and in Mexico. And it takes the Mexican part is around volcanoes, and specifically the Paricutin volcano in Michoacan, the state of Michoacan in Mexico, which is a beautiful state, which unfortunately, we were talking about cartels in Colombia, and there are cartels now in Mexico, of course, where everybody knows that. And that beautiful state, unfortunately, is not as safe as it should be. But I still put my novel or my novella there because that was the right place to place it.
It's just amazing to me to hear how you select these topics and subjects. Of course, you have a contract that says you have to do the sequels. You carry the same character through it, main character, protagonist, and then so it's like an adventure with that individual.
It is. And it's amazing as I go around speaking to different book clubs and other groups that have invited me to speak about the novel or the writing or the creative process. It's amazing to me how many people do relate to the fact that there is a protagonist and they ask that will have another, that she will be featured in another book. And they are just so anxious to have the next book so they can read it. And they want to know about some of the other main characters. Are they going to be there? I can't give too much away, though. Otherwise, they wouldn't buy the book.
Well, we know the protagonist, though, survives the first book, don't we?
Yes.
So you've given that away. Well, let me ask you, I mean, you mentioned that, and maybe I'm going too deep, but how do you pick the subject of these books? I mean, does it just come to you
It
as
just
an
comes
author?
to me. Yes, it just comes to me. Just as poetry will just come to me. And sometimes it comes to me at night. So I always keep a little notepad next to the bed, and I get up and I go into the bathroom, turn the light on, and write down 2 or 3 sentences and then go back to bed. Because if I don't write it down, by the next morning I'll think, now what was that wonderful idea I had? Sometimes those wonderful ideas sound wonderful at 3 o'clock in the morning and not so good at 6 a.m. or 7.
Well, what is the old story? You have to have 10 ideas to get one good one. But, you know, what you're saying, though, is advice I would give to business clients. If you keep a pad and pencil handy so you can stop. And I have a habit of doing that, try to carry one everywhere I go. And now I'm using my cell phone and jot down ideas. And in my case, I forget things, so I jot down things to do as well. But the idea is that you have access so you can memorialize what you thought about and, again, look at it the next day.
Right.
I think that's an important business principle to look at. Let me ask you, you're in the business of being an author. You have to sell your books. Tell us how you market your books.
Well, that's the most challenging part of all, because publishers these days, most of them for new authors are small regional publishers, as in my case, and they don't provide any funds for promoting the book. But they give you a handbook saying all the things that you need to do. And it's overwhelming, all the things you have to have. Of course, you have to be active on Facebook and all other social media. And you have to build a platform for yourself, because you need to get your name out there so that people will read your novel. You need to get the novel name out there. And then you need to make a lot of public appearances. And most of those public appearances that I have made are book clubs. I have talked to some retiree groups. The largest group I spoke to was in Dallas of 165 people. But most of the groups that I talk to are between 20 and 30 people. And that is key to promoting the book. It's wonderful that you're on Amazon and all the other places online, but the truth is, unless you get out there and meet the public, you're not going to sell very many books. Unless you're well known. If you're a TV personality, that's different. It's built in. People will buy the book just because you're a TV personality. But when you're a total unknown, it is difficult, and you have to start from scratch.
You know, that's interesting. I guess my impression of marketing would have been personal appearances, but I also think people don't realize how difficult it is to market a book. Like you say, unless you're some recognized character in public, then you really need to work at it, just like any business, to make it work.
That's right.
You know, that is so interesting to me. Well, let me ask you, I mean, you've had this great background. You've got 92 countries. And I guess I'm seeing a pattern, and I want to make sure I see it right. You've got the setting, if you will, the site, as I call it, for at least 92 books, theoretically. Is that a fair statement?
Well, I guess that would be a fair statement if I wanted to write one of waking up in Barcelona, waking up in Paris, and waking up in Buenos Aires, and all the waking up in Saigon. I mean, you know, I could do all sorts of titles like that. But I think it's important to keep focused on what you really want to do. And once I get through with the trilogy, the Nikki Garcia thriller series, which is going to be a trilogy, there are other projects that I have in mind. And those projects also come somewhat out of different things that I saw in my travels. But would I even have time in this lifetime to write about 92 countries? Unfortunately, not really. Unless I did a trip around the world.
and write the whole time, right? Well, you know, one of the things I find with some business people, particularly creative business people, is that they have all these ideas and they can't organize them. So they're grasping at things instead of narrowing it down, deciding which is the best, starting with one, then going to two. Do you have that challenge?
Well, let me tell you that because I had worked out of my right brain for so many years before I became a CPA, being a CPA really focused me a great deal. But it's interesting that you should mention that, because I follow a 4-step process, and I followed it when I was in business because I turned a couple of companies around, And so it was very, very important to follow a process. You couldn't just be jumping all over the place. You had to have a solid plan. And it really can be applied to business, to science, and to the arts, and anything else that you want to do, your personal life. And that's just approaching every single problem in life with a broader, more imaginative approach, and then applying the following steps. One is identifying the issue. And that could be what you want to do or what problem you have that you have to solve. And then the second step is to consider as many options, even off-the-wall options, as possible of how to solve that issue. And then you apply whatever constraints you have, whether they're financial or time constraints or other types of constraints. And then you select those options that you think are the most viable. And then you narrow that down to get the most feasible. And that's the one that you then develop. And by developing, you develop a whole plan. And the final step is implementation. So in being an author, you choose fiction or you use historical fiction or you use a memoir. And then you consider all the options that you have and you decide what you're going to write. Let's say you're going to write historical fiction. And then you narrow that down further. You consider all the options. Do you want to talk about Marie Antoinette or Napoleon, or you want something more recent? And so you start narrowing it down, and then you finally find the one that's your passion, and you work on that, and you implement it. The implementation is when you get the book done.
Just like in business, any business, right?
That's absolutely right.
That's excellent. That's your creative model, I assume.
It is.
I think that's wonderful. I mean, again, people probably don't realize that your process is just like in business, of developing a plan, if you will, business plan, if you want to call it, on writing a book, developing business plans to run our businesses.
But I think you're right, Rick, in the sense that so many creative people are on the right side of the brain so much that they don't have that, perhaps the discipline, and they can jump around all over. So what I have found is that if you do apply those steps, you can get yourself much more focused.
Yeah, it makes sense. That's very interesting to me. Well, let me ask you, as we wind down this segment of the show, obviously the most important thing is, where can I buy the book?
On Amazon. You can get it other places. It's online at Amazon, obviously, in paperback or the Kindle edition. You would need to not only Google my name, search for my name, but also Waking Up in Medellin, because there's more than one Kathryn Lane author out there. So we want to make sure you get Waking Up in Medellin.
That's the important thing. And where can we learn more if people are interested in you and perhaps even communicating with you? Where can they do that?
At my website, and that's Kathryn, Kathryn, -Lane, LANE.com. And that'll get you right to my website. And if you search there, you can easily find a way to communicate with me.
Well, Kathryn, I can't thank you enough for being our guest today and teaching us, if you will, the business of being an author. Thank you very much for joining us. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a break here at the bottom of the hour. And when we come back, we're going to have some folks here from the Woodlands Chamber to talk about an upcoming event they have and the importance of community involvement when you're in business. So please stay with us.
Heaven's Army of Resources and Recreation Center is a 501c3 nonprofit organization featuring a 10,000 square foot building located at 19325 FM 1485 West, New Caney, Texas. At Heaven's Army, we offer over 26 different services free for all ages, from karate, dance, drug and alcohol classes, anger management, parenting, food and clothing pantries, to just name a few. We are supported solely by volunteers and private donations. Our main mission is to glorify God in all that we do. At Heaven's Army, we strive to be a hand up, not a handout. Come check us out at 19325 FM 1485 West, New Caney, Texas, or call for more information at 281-689-5864. You may also learn more about Heaven's Army by visiting our website at heavensarmyofresources.com.
Our community's animal shelters cannot absorb accidental litters of kittens and puppies. Approximately 80% of the animals entering our shelters will not make it out alive. Please help be a part of the solution please spay and neuter your pets. Many low-cost options are available. Visit texaslittercontrol.org to learn more. That's texaslittercontrol.org. And remember, real Texans don't litter. Please spay and neuter your pets.
Listen in on Mondays at noon to hear the East Montgomery County news. News from our Precinct 4 Commissioner Jim Clark, Precinct 4 Constable Rowdy Hayden, our local nonprofits, school districts, and events that matter to you, residents of Porter, New Caney, and Splendora. With your host, Margie Taylor of Taylorized PR. For more information, check us out online at facebook.com/EMC News.
You're going to need me.
You're going to need us.
All of us.
You're going to need our help with your water, your air, your food.
You're going to need our determination, our compassion.
You're going to need the next generation of leaders to face the challenges the future will bring.
And we promise, we'll be there when you need us.
Today, 4-H is growing the next generation of leaders.
Did you know there are more than 790 abused and neglected children currently in foster care in Montgomery County? Will you help make a difference? I'm Allie Stevens with Casa Child Advocates of Montgomery County. We train and support volunteers to be the voice of children in the foster care system. Kids are removed from their home because of abuse and neglect, and we need volunteers just like you to advocate for these children. To learn more about becoming an advocate, please visit CasaSpeaksForKids.com. That's CasaSpeaksForKids.com.
Hi, it's me, Cece Holmes. I'd like to take this time to invite you to spend your Sunday evenings with me, and of course Sunday Evening Jazz, where you will hear the best in smooth jazz, traditional jazz, and indeed so much more. That's Sunday Evening Jazz every Sunday from 5 until 7 p.m. right here on Lone Star Radio, Conroe's 104.5 and 106.1 FM.
If you are looking to start a career, you can start your professional life in the U.S. Army. I am Staff Sergeant Stephen Jackson. My fellow soldiers and I can talk with you about learning high-tech skills in electronics and computers as a soldier. Interested in the medical field? The Army has skilled medical and dental jobs that set you up for future success. Come visit us at 2109 West Davis Street, directly behind the Whataburger on Highway 105, or give us a call at 936-756-7002.
An estimated 1 in 10 births will result in a neonatal intensive care stay, also known as the NICU. Overnight, a family can find themselves and their newborn baby in a critical situation. The Mila Foundation financially and spiritually assists families in need. If you would like to volunteer or become a monthly sponsor, please visit us at www.themilafoundation.org. Again, that's www.themilafoundation.org, because every life matters.
You are listening to the Weekly Business Hour, and this is Rick Schissler, your Silver Fox advisor and host of the show. And today I'm so pleased that we have some special guests from the Woodlands. Angela is here. And Angela, what do you do with the Woodlands?
I'm their Director of Government Affairs and Events.
Okay. And Russell, we have you here as well. And what do you do?
Yes, I am actually the owner of Link Magazine. It's a local owned small business here in the area, but I am the team leader this year for the Taste of the Town event.
And I guess that's what we're really going to talk about is that special, really a big event for the Woodlands Chamber, isn't it?
Yes, sir. It's our largest fundraiser we have.
That's great. And tell us a little bit about it. What's it consist of?
Okay, so the Taste of the Town, it's actually our 31st year, and it is a tasting of all the different restaurants and different small businesses that are in the Woodlands area surrounding community. And you can, we have all different booths from desserts to pastries to beverage booths to all different kind of restaurants to taste and mingle and have fun.
So why, if I'm a business person in this area, own a business and whatnot, which is typically who our listener is, why do I want to be involved in this event as an attendee or otherwise?
Well, yeah, there's actually a bunch of different ways. One of the main things is that we probably have about 7,000 in attendance that come through the doors probably for a 4-hour time frame. And the best thing is to, if you own a business, to get your business to all those 7,000 attendees. But then also if you want to come and just enjoy the event, you can taste all the different restaurants that what they have to offer in places that you might not have been before in the local area.
Well, I personally have attended this event some years ago, and these type of events to me are a great place to network because as you're eating, right, it's a social thing, and you see people you might know, and you stop and you visit, and you eat and you visit, and you get to build your relationship with them.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Let me ask you, Angela, I mean, the Chamber's been doing this a long time. It's your biggest event, right?
Yes, sir.
That you put on. From your perspective, what's exciting about it?
Oh, gosh. Well, we're celebrating our 31st annual Taste of the Town. And this will be my first Taste of the Town to do as an employee of the Chamber. So I'm really excited in that perspective. But it's probably such a great event just because it has all of our restaurants and our beverage companies, but also companies can sponsor. So right when you walk in, they're going to be on the outside area. But just like you said, the networking of it. I have memories of going to Taste of the Town in the Woodlands thinking, oh, yeah, we went with a group of friends, or we got our company, you can buy packages, and the whole group goes together. So not only bonding and networking with other people, but it's a chance for you and your company, people you work with that you talk to at work, to get together outside of the work setting.
So it makes a nice social event for the company.
Absolutely.
That's a good point.
And it really is the entire community that's out at Taste of the Town.
Yeah, 7,000 people. That's quite a crowd.
Yes.
And they're not all there at one time.
Yeah.
We funnel them in and out.
I hear you. Got to take your number and step in.
All right.
Russell, I'm going to talk to you for a minute. I mean, I'm a big proponent of community involvement by all our businesses, big and small, solos, whatever. And the Chamber, in this case, the Woodlands Chamber, is the first place that I always recommend businesses that are not involved to go and see if they can connect with the Chamber. Tell us about your involvement in the Chamber and why it's important to your business.
Well, the Chamber was the first thing that I did. I started my business probably about going on 8 years. And the first place I went to was the Chamber, got real connected in there, started getting involved, doing all the little networking events. And I am now a diplomat. I've been a diplomat for that long as well, helping with member retention in the Chamber. And then all the different little networking events. My main thing that I do is relationship marketing. So where you get involved with the Chamber and the community, and, it's just not a one-time sell of something like that. You're creating a relationship over and over, and that's one of the most important aspects that the Chamber brings.
The opportunity, then, what you're saying, to network and build those relationships in the environments, which are varied, that the Chamber creates through their events, their committees. How important, in your opinion, you're obviously on a committee or a team, how important is that involvement to building your business?
I think it's really important because you get to meet another level of business owners or different people that are in the different business levels, and you get a one-on-one team building, relationship build out of that. It's a different level of just going to a marketing or a networking event and getting to know someone and say hi and bye and all that, but you're one-on-one across the table with probably about 10 to 15 different Chamber business owners and members.
Basically, then, is the team a concept or committee concept is a chance to build even stronger relationships with the folks that are involved in that committee. Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's a great opportunity if a business owner or manager has the time to volunteer, find a committee that fits with them. Angela, you have a lot of committees or teams. Is it now teams?
So when I worked at the Conroe Chamber, we called them committees.
Okay.
But now at the Woodlands Chamber, I'm just a chamber girl. We call them teams at the Woodlands Chamber. It's actually been awesome working with them just because their volunteers give up so much of their time. But yeah, our chamber wouldn't be anything without those teams or committees.
Russell, one of the things I forgot to ask you mentioned you're in the magazine business. Give us a little bit of background on that so people understand what business you're really in.
Okay, yeah, Link Magazine is a local direct mailed advertising magazine. So it direct mails, we saturate all of the homes in Montgomery County. I have 4 local zones, 2 in the Woodlands area, 1 in Magnolia, 1 in Lake Conroe. And it goes in the mail every other month, and it's all different kind of businesses, a lot of restaurants, a lot of home services, a lot of personal services kind of stuff, and it's all ads.
So it's all ads. So what would cause me to read your magazine would be
wanting to know the deals that are out there, wanting to look for some saving offers, or just even if there's a restaurant around the corner or hidden in the woods that you've never seen before.
So it becomes a connection point for people to the community. Any particular kind of businesses you focus on, or is it
we do a lot of restaurants and the kind of home services, so the remodeling kind of industry, the service industry, and then restaurants.
Can you quantify what your involvement in the Chamber has done, if it's possible, done for your business?
Oh, it'd be hard, but it's that's one of the main things that I've done is the chamber involvement, and I'd probably say 50% of the business.
Well, it's one of the things when I talk chambers with people, and I've been involved with a number of chambers in my career. And again, I'd lead with a chamber when I'm working with a business that's not connected. It's kind of on my checklist. People say, well, quantify it, and I agree.
Right.
It's very difficult. But then when you become part of it, and particularly if you volunteer, then you really have a new community, and people can call it a network, whatever. But directly or indirectly, it helps build your business. But it's almost impossible to say, well, I made $5,000 or I did $50,000 in business. Off a chamber.
Right, because it is all connected. You might not know that person knows that you're in the chamber, and there's just a web that spreads out.
Right, a good foundational web, in my opinion, for local businesses, no doubt about it. Well, Angela, tell us a little bit about this event in particular. We've heard numbers like 7,000, and we got vendors, and what it really is the true purpose of this event.
So the Chamber has probably two largest fundraisers. Financially, Economic Outlook Conference is probably our largest, and then community-based Taste of the Town is. So this event helps us raise money basically to put on other things at the Chamber to continue to give those benefits to our membership. So this event, I guess, whenever it started 31 years ago, it probably started out pretty small. And Carmen, our event coordinator, who's in the room with us, has been with the Chamber for 6 years now, so she knows a lot of details about this event. But I think that in the Woodlands specifically, restaurants are such a huge. We have a new restaurant, and Russell, you know this. We have a new restaurant probably every other week or every week almost. And so being able to really showcase that and show what the Woodlands has to offer, we have tons of people come in all the time, and people travel to see this event. But even if you're a resident just around the corner, you don't realize with all the trees that there's a brand new restaurant over there. So I think it really showcases those that perspective of our businesses that we have in the community. But then also, like I said, it's a way to network and show the other businesses that are sponsors. Planet Lincoln is coming in as our title sponsor, as well as the Woodlands Convention and Visitors Bureau. And then just getting to know them. So there's I know a lot of people think, well, why would my business get involved if we're not a restaurant or a beverage company? But there's definitely other ways to do it. Marketing, get your logo on the bands and things like that. It's just fun.
Well, obviously, if I have 7,000 potential customers, and I know some of them might not be for my business, but the idea is I'm in front of them in one place in 4 hours, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I deeply appreciate both of you, Angela and Russell, coming in and talking about the work of the Chamber and talking about this special event. When will it occur?
February 9th. Okay,
and where can people get more information about it?
At tasteofthetown.org, or they can call the Chamber at 281-363-5777.
Okay.
367-5777.
I'm sorry, you want to say it again?
281-367-5777.
Okay, now we got that number. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I encourage you that if you're not involved in your local chamber, do so. And if you're here in Montgomery County, check out the Woodlands Chamber and definitely check out the Taste of Texas. A lot of good reasons to attend, either with your employees or with clients, customers, vendors. Just go have a good time. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take our final break for the day. And when we come back, I'm going to share with you my Silver Fox tip of the week, and that's pricing. So please stay with us, and we'll be right back with you.
Hi, I'm Mike Sasser, your host of the Health Hour right here on Lone Star Community Radio. I'd like to invite you to tune in to my live show each Wednesday starting at 1 p.m. I like to say it's an hour of health news you can use. Be a part of the conversation by going to MikeSasser.com and clicking on Contact Mike for my email, Facebook, and Twitter links. The Health Hour with Mike Sasser every Wednesday at 1 p.m. on Lone Star Community Radio, your local source for healthy living.
You're going to need me.
You're going to need us.
All of us.
You're going to need our help with your water, your air, your food.
You're going to need our determination, our compassion.
You're going to need the next generation of leaders to face the challenges the future will bring.
And we promise we'll be there when you need us.
Today, 4-H is growing the next generation of leaders.
Heaven's Army of Resources and Recreation Center is a 501c3 nonprofit organization featuring a 10,000 square foot building located at 19325 FM 1485 West, New Caney, Texas. At Heaven's Army, we offer over 26 different services free for all ages, from karate, dance, drug and alcohol classes, anger management, parenting, food and clothing pantries, to just name a few. We are supported solely by volunteers and private donations. Our main mission is to glorify God in all that we do. At Heaven's Army, we strive to be a hand up, not a handout. Come check us out at 19325 FM 1485 West, New Caney, Texas, or call for more information at 281-689-5864. You may also learn more about Heaven's Army by visiting our website at heavensarmyofresources.com.
Here we are, another morning in Montgomery County. It's 6 a.m. and all you can do is think about hitting that snooze button. But don't. Wake up with me, your morning radio host of Mornings of Lone Star, Dick. Every weekday morning from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. on Lone Star Community Radio, join me for some music, talk, interviews, giveaways, and of course Montgomery County's weather and traffic. I'm here to make your morning start. Every weekday morning, online at irlonestar.com and Conroe's FM 104.5, 106.1 with Mornings with Lone Star.
This is Rick Schissler, your Silver Fox advisor and host of the Weekly Business Hour. I want to thank you again for joining us today. We've had I think, a really good program, some great guests with Kathryn Lane and just recently Angela and her cohorts here, Russell with the Chamber, Woodlands Chamber, talking about the events that are coming up. One thing I want to let you know before I talk about the Silver Fox tip of the week is you too can sponsor, if you're a local business, sponsor the Weekly Business Hour. If you'd like information about being one of our sponsors, then please go email me at Rick, R-I-C-K, at IRLoneStar. Well, let's jump into the Silver Fox tip of the week. My title is, It's About Time You Looked at Your Prices. Pricing, to me, that's part of, if nothing else, part of your planning. And many of you this time of year in December are in the planning mode. Some of you that are really good have already finished your plan for 2017. But I also know that many of you are just starting, perhaps fumbling around trying to read the tea leaves as they are on what's going to happen in our economy, our local economy, particularly if you sell locally, if you sell outside the area, what's going to happen? How do I project revenue? It's a very difficult thing to do. And a big component of your revenue is your price, the price that you sell your goods and services for. And it's been my experience, almost without exception, that many, many small businesses have a difficult time addressing the pricing issue. In fact, it's one of the most difficult tasks that I would say a business owner faces, particularly in the planning phase or part of their business, is we're always afraid, I guess, as small businesses to raise our prices, to change our prices. We're afraid of losing market share. We're afraid of losing that great customer. But the reality is, at the beginning of 2017, as you start the year, remember one thing, the cost of doing business went up in 2016. I mean, that's a fact. In general, occupancy cost went up, and that's utilities. That could be your rent, insurance, all the things that relate to the cost of occupancy, the cost of materials and products. I mean, just go back and look what your material costs are. Look at what products were. Look at your labor factor. What are you paying people? What are you having to pay to attract the best people to your company? And if the hourly or weekly wage didn't change that much, look at your benefits. We all know what the impact has been with health insurance. So for no other reason than the fact that your costs are going up, you really need to take time to look at this pricing thing. And I'm going to offer you quickly 3 methods. The simplest is based on cost, where you just add up your costs to deliver your service or your product and then analyze and come to some figure of what it costs for you to do that. And that includes your overhead, your cost of occupancy, and so on and so forth. Put them all down and average them out on a per product basis and see what on a unit basis it costs you to sell that product or provide that service. This is an important step. And again, I find so many businesses really don't look at it. Should have done that when you started your business, but if you haven't, it's not too late. But know what it costs so you can mark that cost up and arrive at a price. There are other ways you can do that. You can have formulas that you develop, and I've seen some businesses have some really unique, solid formulas where they analyze not only their price, but the competition. These are formulas, in many cases, they develop themselves. And that's another way, is that you analyze the market and determine what a fair price would be for your product in the marketplace. It takes a little more effort, in my opinion. Many times we don't stay up on what our competitors are doing. I advise you not to be obsessive about it, but at least once a year, test the waters, if you will. See what your competition is charging for similar products. And a lot of times you can gather that information just from sitting in your chair, using the internet, using Google to find out what people are charging for their services. Because many times, directly or indirectly, their price is advertised. So once you develop the way to do it, you can repeat that year after year in staying in touch. And I think another way that you can look at your price, and another method that's available out there, is that you can look at what the general pricing structure in the market. You know, everybody thinks the economy's a little bit slow right now, or most people do, particularly if they're in the local market. I think we're a little bit afraid. It's really not as bad as we think it is, at least not what our local economists throughout the greater Houston area tell us. We need to evaluate our pricing based on the entire market, not just for our services, our product, but the entire business or consumer market, depending on what we sell into. So I encourage you this planning season, if not other times, look at your price. You need to analyze your price, and you need to keep a file or a folder with your historical information. So when you pull it up again, you can look back on the methodology and what you looked at, what resources you used. Because if you only do it once a year, let's be frank, you're going to forget. That folder, that file, is a very important source of information. I appreciate everyone joining us this week. I think we've had a good show today. And again, if you would like to sponsor the Weekly Business Hour, you can do so by contacting me at rick@irlonestar.com. This is our last live show for the year, but please put a note on your calendar to join us again next Monday right here on irlonestar.com at 11 a.m. when we will replay our show with Brian Bondi, president of the Greater Conroe Lake Conroe Chamber of Commerce. That was a wonderful show, a lot of good information, not just from Brian, but the other information we had on the show. So please join us for this holiday show. Remember, you too can sponsor the Weekly Business Hour, so reach out to me. And be aware that the podcast of the show will be posted on Wednesday on the Weekly Business Hour page of irlonestar.com. So thank you for joining us. Remember to stay in touch with what's happening in Montgomery County right here on Lone Star Community Radio. And until next week, stay engaged and keep your focus on what counts in your business.
Thanks for checking out this production on Lone Star Community Radio, Montgomery County's radio station. For more information on this show and other shows on Lone Star, check us out online at irlonestar.com. If you're interested in sponsoring a program on Lone Star Community Radio and reaching the local audience of Montgomery County on FM, internet, and TV media, please call 936-647-5747 or contact us online at irlonestar.com. This recording is a Lone Star Community Radio production, produced by the show host and Dick Schissler of Lone Star Community Radio. Interested in volunteering as a music DJ or starting your own talk show? Contact Dick Schissler at dick@irlonestar.com or by phone at 936-647-5747.